This is Richard Paul Hobbs at gmail.com. This is endyawsgroup@gmail.com. We're not healthy. We're not perfectly well. We're incapacitated in many ways, shapes, and forms. But we still matter. And we have civil rights. And we as Americans have to stand up for what is right and stop what is wrong from continuing. This is Nazi oppression with a different name. And if everybody agrees that it's okay to do something even though it's not legal, then they think it's legal, but it is not legal. I know Dr. King. I met Dr. King. If you would have asked me 5 years ago that I know Dr. King, I might have said, well, I think I knew him, but I don't know for certain. And then persons my age who had gone to church with me at Riverside Church when I was a child growing up said things that made me think, and then I realized that I had met him many times and heard him many times and knew who he was, but didn't remember. I mean, it's amazing the things that you forget about your past life because when you're 3 years old and you're 7 and you're 5 and you're 9 and you meet somebody who's going to become world famous, you don't quite understand how the child, which I was, even though as capable as I was to understand things that are not childish, I don't know. But I realize I met Dr. King, that we sat and talked together. I was a child and he was an adult. And they had coffee hours. Well, I don't drink coffee. You don't give coffee to children, but adults drink it. And Jesus never drank a cup of coffee in his life. Well, he didn't, and neither did Moses. And there's many other things that we all think are true about the past, and they're not true at all, because most of us can't even remember what happened last week. If you go own a newspaper store, which I did for a while, and every day there's headlines, and people come by the paper to read what it says about whatever's going on, all these crises and all this manipulated news that that Mr. Trump very wisely called fake news. It's all fake, 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 fake. Everything in this country has become fake, including what's going on here. And it's allowed to be that way because it seems people are compromised. And so you got lawyers and judges and elected officials and people in charge of our society who allow things to go on that are irrational, make no sense whatsoever at all. But if they don't let that be the way it is, then they lose their participation in the upper part of the society. They lose their eliteness. They start becoming a poor person, and their children and grandchildren will be in poverty because they didn't let the people who are in charge of things, who are very evil in this country, continue to steal and rob and destroy and pretend they're helping people when they're not. And it all has to do with, it doesn't have to do with how we look at it, but it has to do with what questions we're allowed to ask and whether we're able to force facts to be known or just popular opinions and have them considered facts. Now, I know how to end the COVID. I've known it since I'm 16. I've read plenty of books in my lifetime in biology, and I know how to use megadoses of ascorbic acid to prevent any viral infection, including the COVID, including Ebola, and other things that the medical community says are incurable. I know that's not true. But since they all agree that it's true, and nobody has allowed to give any change version, and since the media isn't going to allow any other version come up, then the whole population is being deceived by criminals. But they're allowed to be criminals. In fact, when we pay these people, these police officers and people like Fauci and the president, we're paying them to commit crimes against us and get away with it and never be held accountable. And that's what we have to change. If we don't change it, then in a year or two, terrible, terrible things will happen. The whole economy is falling apart. This whole corrupt system is falling apart. And that's what's happening. And I'm here a victim of it in this situation here. And it's all rubber stamping. They do wrong, and they have it all set up to make it look like you can challenge it and do this and that and the other. But the truth is, if you don't have $500,000, or $500,000 more, if you don't have $500,000 income a year or more, then you don't count. You know, the people who make 40,000 and 50,000 and 60,000 don't matter. The people who should be paying that much in taxes off of what they make, as long as they keep making that high amount of money, and they keep towing the line and letting everyone who's worshiping Satan on Halloween and sacrificing a virgin child that they've raised for 20, 12, 15, 18 years for the purpose of doing that, as long as the people in charge are in charge of causing wrong to happen, and there's no way to address it or change it, it goes on until something happens, like when Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense and persuaded the American people that they needed to be delivered of the oppression that they were having. And they had to rethink, and they had to re-understand, and they didn't have to fight, but they did have to stand their ground. And they did. And then the British, the King George and all these other people in the military all went and made fortunes killing people, pretending they're doing good, and they lost. Thank God they lost. But it wasn't God's will or Jesus' will for them to fight and kill, but that's what they thought they did. And almost every point of fact that you think is true about almost every one of these issues is not a point of fact. It's false, fake information, fake history, fake news, fake charities, fake good, and the other. But as long as the fake people all let other people be fake and get away with it, and as long as we don't stop it without violence, then God, we worship Satan in the United States of America, and we call him Jesus, we call him God, and we have plenty of evidence to indict that truth, to show that that's true. But now, instead of indicting it, we need to solve it. We need to peacefully, the youngest persons and the oldest persons need to donate time and interest so that the Nazis don't keep winning and winning and winning and winning. And the Nazis are winning in China, they're winning in Pakistan, they're winning all over the place. But finally, all of a sudden, in a year and a half, everything that you think that's true about freedom and justice and liberty in your life, you're going to find out isn't true, and people will just kill you. They'll do whatever they want, and nobody will do anything, and then that's bad. That's really, really bad, and we have it. It's happened before. It's going to happen again, but it doesn't have to be that way. We don't need millions of dollars, but we do need many, many, many millions of small groups of persons who get together and decide they're going to participate in their freedom and make sure it stays.